Yes, you guys, how you all doing? I'm Nini FC, this is Blue Irons TV, and welcome to another 3 talking points video after that big win against Burnley a few days ago. The 3 main points today will be Kovacic, Willian, and analysing Pulisic'S goals. If you like the video, don't forget to smash the like button, help me get over 1,500 likes, and of course, before I get into things, today's video is brought to you by the OneFootball app. Download the OneFootball app to stay up to date with all the latest things happening at the club. It's quick, it's convenient, and it's very easy to use once you spend a little bit of time getting used to the format. If you guys want to download the app, you'll find it in the link in the description below. I'm going to start with Willian, and I think it's about time we start to put some respect on the player's name. Now, not too long ago, Lampard came out talking about Willian in very high praise, even saying that he's been our best player this past month. Since Willian's return back to the team, he's looking sharp, he's looking fresh, and I think the reason for this, the reason why we're seeing a rejuvenated Willian, is how Lampard is using him in the system. You know, back in the day, Willian was forced out wide on the right. There's no freedom there. There was no one to link up with, and if you're playing down the right hand side, you need to focus more on your off-the-ball movement, and that's something that Willian isn't about. Willian's always been a player that prefers the ball coming to his feet. He likes carrying the ball from deeper positions, he likes to skip past his man, and even though we've seen quite a lot of poor performances from Willian, this is the context in which I'm always viewing the player, because he's always in that sense being bottlenecked due to the system and playing for the team, and when that consistently keeps happening, it's no surprise why we don't see the player at his very best. But anyway, you guys, from here on, I'm going to be using Who Scored so we can look at Willian briefly from a statistical point of view. Now, I'm going to be using Who Scored so we can see how Willian's been performing this season from a statistical point of view. As we can see here, his ratings have been very good. In the Champions League, he has a 7.57 rating. In the Premier League, he does have a 7.2 rating as well. If we scroll down, we can see all his games in a much deeper level. Now, immediately we can see how many 7s and 8s Willian scored this season. Of course, he scored a few 6s, but there's context and reasons behind it. Of course, against Sheffield United, he only played for 30 minutes, so that makes a lot of sense. Against Liverpool, all our attacking players struggled in that game. And of course, against Ajax as well, you know what? We can actually go into detail so you can see exactly why Willian didn't perform as well as he has been playing throughout the season. So of course, we go to match report here. If we scroll down, we click on the player positions. And as we can see, look, the players focus down the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, there's nothing. The only player that Willian has to link up with is Pulisic'S, and after that it's just tons of space, so really it's no surprise why Willian didn't perform as he normally has this season. Anyway, let's get back into things and let's look at his recent game versus Burnley. Now, as we can see, they scored Willian an 8.2. If we click on him, we can see his game from a deeper level. Now, of course, he had 4 shots in the game, 2 being on target. He took the most shots alongside Pulisic'S, so from that point of view, immediately we can see why Mason and Tammy didn't have too many shots in the game, because Pulisic and Willian were looking to score for themselves, which is okay because they scored and they both played very well. Of course, we can see here possession stats as well, very good. His pass success rate, of course he's playing a lot more forward passes, so it's not going to be as high, but the most important thing is he produced 3 key passes in the game. Getting back into things, if we look at Willian's statistics throughout the season, in the Premier League he has 2 goals and 2 assists in about 9 games, so 6 starts and 3 sub appearances. We can see here that he has 2 shots per game, he's making at least 1 key pass per game, nearly 2 dribbles per game as well, plus he's drawing fouls. His defensive game has been very solid, he's making about nearly 2 tackles per game. Clearances, dribbles, pass isn't really happening too much either. Honestly, I think at this point, you guys, we need to really give praise to Willian. He's come back with a different mentality, different desire, he's fitter, he's sharper, and he's playing with more freedom. Anyway, we continue on, and just to conclude this point, I feel like as fans, whenever a new season starts, we need to see the players with a fresh perspective and to give them a new opportunity. And the reason for this is because we have a different manager playing a different style of football. And when that happens, you're going to see some players' performances improve. and for others, they might regress because they don't complement things tactically. I feel as fans, it's good to put our egos aside because, with our egos, it does skew our perspective. And once our perspective is skewed, it means that we're not seeing things for what they are. Listen, I've consistently criticized Willian quite a lot, especially last season. Now, last season was Willian's poorest for me personally, but is it fair to hold that against a player when he started the new season with no negativity from last season? I think the reason why we need to keep our perspective and our opinions fresh is because in football, things are constantly changing every single time and we'll get left behind if we don't update our opinions. Now, we move on to the second talking point, and I'm going to be analysing Pulisic'S hat-trick against Burnley. Now, as we can see for the first goal, he wins possession back from the counter press, slows his marker down, uses his great acceleration to go wide to the left, and he does a Diego Costa in the bottom left corner. I'm going to slow things down so I can go into even greater detail. Pulisic dispossesses his man, and the great thing we did from a tactical perspective is that we did really well in stopping Burnley playing passes into their midfield. We kept our shape in those central areas, and we set up pressing traps, so players were situated near the Burnley midfield. As the ball got closer, we activated it, and this is why Pulisic was able to close his man down. And the beautiful thing about this, you guys, is the amazing thing is, once you dispossess your man like this, it gives players like Willian and Pulisic a ton of space to carry the ball into. We can see this here. Pulisic wins the ball, he's running, and with a player like Pulisic, he has such fantastic close control. Ball is always controlled, and this is why he makes these things look easy. As we can see, he's carrying the ball. Boom, going forward. Now his head's up. He's looking at his possible options. And this is what really impressed me. Small details like this. He sees, okay, you guys can't see it, but it's Mason Mount and it's Tammy Abraham down that right hand side. Regardless, Pulisic continues his run. He slows the play down a tiny bit. Here, this is what Pulisic loves to do. Why is that? He has, I'd probably say, world-class acceleration in the first 5-10 meters. Once he slows his man down, it's most times impossible for them to win the ball back. As we can see, Pulisic's too fast for his man. He uses Tammy Abraham's run as a decoy, which is what I want to see. He's thinking. Anyway, as I said, Tammy's run is used as a decoy. Pulisic cuts into the left-hand side, and he does a Diego Costa in the bottom left corner. And what I mean by that is, when I saw that goal, I kept thinking about that hat-trick that Diego Costa scored against Everton when we beat them 6-3 back in the day. And that's how Pulisic gets his first goal. Now, surprise, surprise, Pulisic's second goal is nearly identical to his first goal. Look in the area of the field in which Pulisic is receiving the ball. As I said, receiving the ball in these areas where we're bypassing Burnley's press means that players like him have a ton of space to run into. When you have guys like Tammy and Mason that know how to, create even more space by taking men out of the game, it's no surprise why Pulisic had the confidence to go on goal and shoot for himself, as we can see here. Look, Tammy's taken out that Burnley defender, and it forces, I think, Tarkowski to either have to close Pulisic down or hold his position. As we can see, once you do that, you're making a big mistake. Once you've slowed down when Pulisic's running with momentum, you're asking for him to get past you. As we can see here, he uses the run again, and of course a bit lucky with the shot, but again, you make your own luck. It was on target, and that's why it still stands as a goal. Boom. Bottom left corner, Pulisic's right foot, and he makes it 2 goals. And now for the final goal, Pulisic makes it number 3 with a great backwards header. But let's analyse how he was able to score this goal. For me, it was a great set-piece tactic from Frank Lampard. As we can see, Lampard has 4 guys attacking the 6-yard box. We can see Tammy, Zuma and Tomori adding that physical presence. Now, for me, I think with the addition of these 3 players, it commands the attention of the Burnley players. We can see from the body language here, look, they're getting very tight to all 3 players, and this means that Pulisic has space in front. Now, my thinking is, this is a set-piece play. The plan is to have Pulisic make a run to the near post where he isn't going to be marked, and as we already know, that's exactly what happened. Now, Mason Mount puts in an unbelievable ball to the near post. It dips, it takes out the first man in O'Neill, and of course, takes out the first man. Pulisic here, He has to improvise, the ball's a bit behind him, but he's thinking. He's thinking that if he uses power on the header, he's most likely going to overhit it. Instead, he uses the power and the weight of that cross, and this is why that dipping cross is so crucial in modern day football. And I think it's this little bit of improvisation which takes out the Burnley players. That's me breaking down Pulisic'S hat-trick. Now we move on to the final talking point, and that's going to be none other than Kova. Now, to end with the final talking point, I think it's only fair that we talk about Kovacic. This season in particular, he looks like a completely different player. But why exactly is this the case? The simple reason is, Kovacic is not being used as a number 8. And this is why I said in my previous video, maybe we should reevaluate what Sarri did. I'm not saying he did anything bad, but it kind of makes sense, you know, if you're going to be using players out of position, it's no surprise why they're not going to be at their best. And if you're relying on players in the final third and at least 2 of them aren't really complementing the system, that's going to affect how the other attacking players perform. I mean, for attentive people, you guys already realize this for yourselves. When we sign Kova, ideally, you're signing him to play in the pivot. That's what he's always been about. He's never been a goal scorer. We all know that. I'm not going to use this against Sarri too much because I also see it from a different perspective. From Sarri's perspective, he's thinking, you know what? You guys sign me for my style of football. It takes a long time. Sarri said this himself. We've seen it with Napoli. He needs at least a few months to really get his system up and running. So from Sarri's perspective, if he isn't using the players in his Sarri ball system, then what's the point? He had to stick with the system, even though he knew that some of the players didn't complement things because it takes such a long time that if he had waited until players were fully fit and returned, it would have been a waste of a season. Last season, a lot of fans thought that signing Kova on a permanent would be a waste of money, but I think as fans, it's about time that we distinguish between a player's ability and how the manager uses him. Simple examples, when we play FM or FIFA, most times on FIFA, we want players to be on 10k because they get that stats boost. And of course, on FM, if you play players in positions that are familiar with, you get the best out of the player. Those same principles still apply in modern day football. And I think we need to stop focusing on what players can't do. And instead, we should focus on their positives and whether the manager is using them properly in the first place. Now that Kova is playing in the pivot, we're seeing the player at his finest and he's looking so good. And the stats are there to back it up. Defensively, he's on point. He's covering a ton of ground as well. You know what? It's fun talking about Kova. Let me praise him a bit more. One thing that we can't deny is his world-class pressing ability. Honestly, he's one of the best in Europe at beating his man, and he combines this skill with great movement of the ball. He moves the ball so quickly, he rarely ever loses the ball as well, and he's constantly aware. Kova is a player that knows what to do with the ball before he receives it. And we've seen him use his great press resistance, his ability to attack the spaces, and when this happens in tandem, we see him play great passes between the lines. Honestly, I think it's a worthwhile debate to consider whether Kova might replace Jorginho in the team. Now, when I look at our midfield with Kante, Ruben, Kova and Jorginho, we've got a great midfield. A fantastic top-class quality midfield, but we know that all these guys can't play in the same team together. Some players will miss out on certain games, some players will play over each other, depending on the context of the game. But against Burnley, I saw Kova being the main guy that was starting the attacks from deep and helping us play through Burnley's press and kick-starting attacks of our own. If he's playing alongside a Ruben and a Kante, imagine how we'd look in midfield. The mobility, the speed, the skill, the technical awareness as well. It would be incredible. To end this point though, Lampard really is going to have a massive selection crisis in the not too distant future. But for right now, I'm happy that people are starting to finally realise Kova and his great abilities, and I hope it continues throughout the season. And on that note, you guys, I'm going to wrap things up and keep things moving. Thank you for watching. Please like, comment and subscribe. I'm NiniFC. This is Blue Lions TV. I'll see you guys later.